Hello everyone, this is StrawberryShorty back with The Letter. So we are currently playing as Marianne. We did not hook up with Luke, if that's what you're wondering. But, so last episode Isabella got into an accident. It doesn't look good for her and she is currently in a coma. But that has nothing to do with Marianne, so we're heading off to the Wright's house. Monday couldn't come any sooner. After taking the floor plans from Miss Santos the day before the last, I spent most of my Sunday drawing up plans and calling in my suppliers. Although no design choices had been made yet, I'm quite sure that they'd want high-end appliances, the most expensive materials, and the most pretentious everything. They usually did, these rich types, based from experience at least. Given how badly this whole thing started, it wouldn't hurt to be prepared. I have to check myself, make sure I'm not playing with my gloves, as one of the other building tenants takes the elevator up with me. Makes me self-conscious when the wise guys go over me, and I'm sure she was going to point out some perceived flaw in my physical appearance. But I'm safe from being paranoid when they went off a few hours later. Still, the ride up to my floor is nerve-wracking. Let's see if we can skip some of this. I don't want to skip the actual, relationship stuff. So we're going to continue waiting so we can check out the TV.
Could I at least put the telly on?
I don't really expect him to answer. If he hadn't heard the crash, I doubt he would have heard me.
As long as you don't watch some silly soap opera, the LBC News would be fine. The William Walker show is on too if you prefer that. Not that I watch it, but my husband does. The remote is under the coffee table.
Oh, sure. Maybe I'll be lucky and catch the doc on. I heard they're having reruns of the classics and I want to see the second meet sixth in Spain. If not, just the news then. Thank you. I'll let you get on with your cooking now.
Did he just ignore the crash a while ago then? Whatever. Touching the remote, I turn the TV on in hopes of filling the silence. Trying to anyway, because the thing won't turn on. And doesn't that make the silence more awkward or what? I know it might not be the best with tech, but I'm sure I can work a simple television remote.
The batteries must be dead.
Oh yeah, we know this girl. This is the ghost girl we keep seeing, and Hana reminds us of her. What? There's blood everywhere. Help me, it says in red. I look at my own hands and find them clean, yet I can see my grisly reflection gaping back at me. And though there is nothing staining my skin, I can feel the sticky and warm feeling of blood dripping down my cheeks. I should be worried. Instead, I feel my attention drawn towards her. Her beautiful blonde hair, her soft lips with skin so fair and swaying hips. I want nothing more than to hold her, plant my lips on her neck, and to run my fingers through her hair. She laughs and she smiles when she looks at me, but where are her eyes? Temptation is gone in an instant and I recoil, horrified at this reflection I am seeing. Only to back into something, or rather, someone. Miss Wright stands there, twirling a lock of her blonde hair, a soft smile on her lips, and a hand on her hip. I almost back away, but I ground and remind myself that this is my client. And whatever I just saw, well, it wouldn't be too far-fetched to say that perhaps I am going a bit daft. It would be preferable, of course, to think that it was all a trick of the light, or the makings of an overactive imagination.
Good morning, Mrs. Wright. I'm sorry, I didn't see you. Have you been standing there long?
No, I just came down and saw you were having a hard time with the telly. We must have forgotten to change the batteries. Are you all right, dear? You're looking a bit pale. Haven't you had breakfast yet?
No, I'm fine. I had breakfast already, Mrs. Wright. I just need...
Well then, you mustn't have had enough breakfast. I'm all for a good diet, but that's the most important meal of the day. Johans is cooking up pancakes. Pancakes will make anyone feel better, he always says. We can sit down and tuck in. You'll feel right as rain once we get some fluffy, syrupy goodness in you. And are you sure you're fine, Marianne? You're shaking.
Looking down at my hands, I can see them trembling. Really? Just because she looks so much like her, I'm becoming a damn train wreck. I've seen her in my dreams, and hearing her voice ever since I met Mrs. Wright at the mansion. With so many blondes in the world, what was different with her? I don't know which one's the right choice. So say, I'm not feeling too well. Nope. Reloading.
I just remembered something, that's all. It's nothing to worry about.
Why can't we tell her that we're not feeling well? She noticed we're not feeling well.
Are you sure? I am all ears if there is something bothering you. I don't mind a good story, and I don't want it to affect your work performance.
Thank you for your concern.
Gossipy wagon, isn't she? She should just leave you alone. It's not like you need her.
You don't have to worry about that, Mrs. Wright. I say business stays business, and anything else can stay in the doghouse until I'm done with work.
I just have to bear through it, won't I? If I tell her that I'm hearing voices, that'd be a fast track straight to the nut house. What else can I do? Saint Dymphna, help me, lest I become like her father, Damon. Insane at the thought of a lost love and mad in the pursuit of another.
Shall we talk about your work then?
If you'd like. It's on your time, after all.
I've been told many good things about you, and I've seen some of your work before. Others speak very highly of your work etiquette, yet I've never heard of you before. Not even a whisper of the McCullough name.
Well, I've only been in Luxbourne for 4 years. Tried to make it big in London for nearly 3 years before, and I've only been working these high-quality projects for the past year.
I stick straight to the point. It's best to be brief when talking to clients, after all. Keep it clean cut as much as possible. Yet at the same time, I have to make it engaging so it doesn't look like I don't want to talk to them.
I imagine it hasn't been easy. I can't see why you've moved from London to Luxbourne, though.
Job vacancies were fewer at the time, and I had a lot of competition in London. Let's not even talk about the living costs there. But I'm glad I moved here, even if it hadn't been smooth sailing. If I had it easy, I probably wouldn't be working projects like these.
Why even bother explaining to her? She won't understand. She's practically born with a silver spoon in her mouth. The woman could probably snap her fingers and have servants attending to her beck and call.
She does look the part of a spoiled heiress, doesn't she? It would be a relief if she was just that. Something that's different from Mrs. Wright and her. Before she can get another word in, words that may have proven me right or wrong, she looks up at the loft with a fond expression on her face. With just a simple glance, she could put so much love that I feel a tad bit jealous of whoever holds it.
Good morning, Luke, darling.
So let's skip, because Luke's here. Pancakes, pancakes, pancakes. They're talking about the room, wants to make it a kid's room. They'll say, yes, it sounds fair, because we're taking Hannah's side. Miss Wright has her points, though I really don't want to butt in to the spat of a husband and wife. Should all be stuff we've seen before. But with the way the two of them were looking at me to settle this, I might as well just keep to the facts instead of giving an opinion.
Mr. Wright, your plan isn't quite feasible from an architectural perspective. I'm not even sure how much we can do without closer inspection. Well, the one about the garage, at least. A walk-in closet is easy enough.
Sorry about that weird cut. The person who had called me before called me again and didn't realize I was recording. So, yeah. Anyway, we can skip past this decision to arguing. Back at the Ermengarde mansion. And this will be the first time we head up to the floor Hannah is on. I've already seen enough of this floor during the open house. Of course, I know that it's just a convenient excuse. I don't want to be in the same room as a whiskey anytime soon, so I might as well just go upstairs first. The banisters on the ground staircase's landing are solid, and at a proper height. Any lower and they would be trouble. There's a small catch in the carpet though, but as long as nobody tries to run down the stairs until it gets fixed, things should be alright. And the stained glass? Art. Restored, no doubt, in the image of the last lady and Lord of Ermengarde. Or it was supposed to be until Lady Charlotte's fiancé was brutally murdered. By a witch of all things, from what I've read. You'd think the historians of this place would be a lot more scrutinizing, filtering out stuff like that. And now I kinda wish we picked this first, because that's backstory. I'm amazed they bothered with it, instead of replacing it with some generic cookie-cutter design. Kinda sad when you consider she's the one that murdered him. This entire piece alone would have cost roughly 500, even £1 million. Lady Charlotte Ermengarde and her beloved. Looking at the mosaic, it's not too far of a stretch of the imagination to believe that the depicted images could be Mr. and Mrs. Wright. It can easily be assumed as such if one doesn't know the history of the mansion. Really, a place like this should be protected by the government as a landmark. What can I do about it? Walking into the east wing, I try to go into the theater, but I'm met with an obstacle. The obstacle that has locked doors. 2 doors, and both of them are locked. I'd be frustrated, would be if I hadn't already snuck off while the Wrights were having their little business meeting with Miss Cooper before to take a peek. With what Mr. Wright wanted, we'd have to install a powerful projector, the types they use in cinemas, and a projection screen. The seats would have to be reupholstered, if they're to be any comfortable, and the walls would have to be covered in dark material, paint, wallpaper, or install wall-to-wall carpeting. Really, of all the rooms I could be jealous of, it's this one. I could just picture myself in there watching old kung fu flicks on a weekend-long marathon. Makes you wonder what kind of movies Mrs. Wright would like. Rom-coms, perhaps? Her husband, on the other hand, I'd rather not think about it. In the middle of my notation and planning, I didn't even realize that I'm not alone, until I'm caught standing in front of a locked door like a fool.
Were you meaning to go in there? I'm afraid we won't be able to open it up today.
Oh well, I wanted to, but it's fine. I can still survey the rest of the place.
Apologies, but a key was missing when they were handed over. They told us that they'd get right back to us with it.
What? But aren't they supposed to hand over all the keys once property changes hands? That can be grounds to file a complaint.
They were already kind enough to let us move in so early. There's no need to raise a fuss about it. Worst comes to worst, we can call for a locksmith.
The air is heavy and somber when she goes quiet and glances out the window. Out towards the vast expanse that surrounds what would be their house, and those birds that keep flying by. Their home. Then she looks back at me with a sigh and a bitter smile. There they go again.
Flowers. Yellow flowers. Daffodils, dandelions, and sunflowers and the sort all up front. Just a whole garden of them. They'll make the house look lovely, won't they?
Of course. A garden is a wonderful addition to any home.
As I say this, her eyes roam over me, scrutinizing and thoughtful. I have to hold back the shiver that threatens to run down my spine at being inspected so closely.
Yes, it must be nice.
We're still talking about the gardens, yes?
I mean not having to worry about what another person thinks of you.
What do you mean by that?
She lifts her hand and points to her wedding ring before it falls listlessly to her side.
Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I didn't marry Luke. There'll be no fights about walk-in closets or silly helipads. I could do with this place as my heart desires until there's nothing but content. Then again, I wouldn't have bought this place if it wasn't a gift for him. I probably wouldn't even be in Luxbourne if it wasn't for him. Maybe I would have moved to London, Manchester, or Birmingham. I might have even left the country altogether. France, Germany, Spain, Canada, Sweden, even America. The possibilities would have been endless.
I don't know what to say to that. What is there to say?
I'm sorry, I must sound so petty and ungrateful. I do love him. So very much, even if he can be a bit difficult at times.
Oh no, not at all. I'm just confused why you're telling me this, of all people.
Just a whim, I think. Just flights of fancy, that's all. Don't you ever think about one decision you've made in your life and wonder how much would change if you chose to do things differently?
I'd imagine that's Lorraine.
I try not to dwell on the past, ma'am.
Liar. The key word is try, of course. Thinking of the past brings up too many ghosts. Memories of her. And I do wonder what would have changed if I just said yes when she asked for me. Maybe she'd still be with me.
You must have been quite the pair, Mrs. Wright. Hannah Evans and Luke Wright taking Luxbourne by storm. At least, that's what I've heard.
That gets a giggle out of her. And can I be blamed if I liked the way her eyes crinkled? Or how she sounded when she laughed?
Quite the celebrity couple, according to all the newspapers. But it wasn't always that way. Father certainly didn't approve of him at first. Why, he told me to stay away from him. Told me that I was too good for him.
He was right.
That's the usual overprotective dad speak, though. But of course you know that.
I don't. I was too busy keeping my grades up at boarding school to maintain my scholarship. Never mind the fact that I went to an all-girls boarding school, so Father never had any reason to fuss over boys trying to date his little girl.
And what did you tell him? Considering you are Mrs. Wright now, you or the mister must have convinced him otherwise.
Yes, well, I told him I was my own woman and I could decide who was deserving of me or not on my own. Thank you very much. That never stopped him from making sure Luke couldn't get anywhere near me without an escort and a guard anyway.
Father's a smart man.
Though he certainly wasn't that overprotective when I was dating Jack.
Maybe your father considered this Jack a more capable man?
I doubt it. Jacqueline was nowhere close to being any sort of a role model when we were in college. She was rebellious, reckless, and immature. Everything I wasn't.
I want to meet this Jacqueline. She sounds like an interesting character.
But she was quite the charming, stunning woman, and I think that made her quite likable.
So you're into girls? That means you're available. That takes me by surprise a lot more than the fact that Mr. Wright's father-in-law didn't like him. That much was to be expected. But this? I have nothing against them because that's their thing, though the nuns and the priests would say otherwise. Although, wasn't she worried about the implications, the rumors that would have arisen about her dating another of the same sex? Especially with someone of her social status.
You look surprised, Marianne. The first thing anybody needs to know about me is that I go after what I want. And when it comes to who I love, it doesn't matter to me whether they're a man or a woman.
As long as you find love. It's a nice enough sentiment. Still, the thought that this lovely lady before me was once been with another woman? I can feel my cheeks heat up a bit and I panic, thinking they might be red enough for Miss Wright to notice. I can't tell, though a coy smile graces her lips.
Legs, we called her, because of how often she was running about because of one thing or another. Climbing up walls and... what do they call it now? parkour, and also because of her, well, legs.
And you went after her?
Not right away. When I first met her, I wanted nothing to do with her. She was so improper and uncouth, but I slowly realized that didn't mean she was a bad person. On the contrary, she did many a good thing and was always so nice to others. I found myself confused. I couldn't figure out if I wanted to be her or wanted to be with her. So I approached her, told her that I might have fancied her.
And your father didn't mind?
That's the wreck of her.
He must have thought it was my form of rebellion. But he never watched out for Jack as much as he watched out for Luke. If I didn't love my father so much, if he hadn't raised me right, I think I might have told him to bugger off.
I want to know what happened with her and Jacqueline.
He's never been more attentive of me than when I started bringing home dates.
I'm sure he loved you very much.
She laughs once more, a glow about her. I know, she says with a small smile.
I suppose I've taken too much of your time with my silly stories. You still have much to inspect?
I still have most of this floor, and I'll want a quick run-through of the ground floor again later.
I shan't keep you from your work any longer then. Just call me if you need anything. I'd like to look around myself.
She turns to leave, she glances back at me before disappearing into the foyer. I look out the window from where she was standing, and I move on, along with nothing but my thoughts and her.
Finally, some peace and quiet. Thought the old biddy would never leave.
It's utter madness, this hearing things. I reckon it's the stress, though I don't know what exactly I'm stressed about. If meeting Mrs. Wright has really thrown me for a loop, I'd be worried. If I'm developing some sort of psychosis or disorder, well, I'd call a doctor. But hopefully it isn't that, not right here and not right now. I mean, it could just be that personal talking cricket, the conscience, so to speak, and I'm only noticing now. Though if it is, it isn't very helpful. Pushing the dilemma of voices in my head aside, I go back to work. But I can barely make it a few steps before everything tilts and shifts. I don't really stumble, but it feels like I'm being thrown off my feet, and the rest of the world just follows. My feet stay firmly on the ground, and even if I stay mostly upright, I feel like I've been heaved and put off balance. I have to close my eyes in the hopes of willing the sudden sense of vertigo to go away, but when I open them... well, I don't feel any less sick because of the sight that greets me. Blood dripped from the walls and the ceiling, pulling downwards and seeping into the curtains and the carpet. A wave of nausea, stronger than the last, hits me along with the overpowering stench of blood and gore. I want to bolt, the rational part of my head is telling me to flee. And I would have gladly done as it asked, if only I didn't hear her.
In here, Marianne. Come on. I have something to show you. In here, Marianne. Come on. I have something to show you.
Have we been pronouncing her name wrong the whole time? Marianne? I could have ignored it, would have ignored it, if I'd only heard it in my head, but I swear that this time it's coming from one of the rooms. Much further in, into the study. And I feel compelled to pay attention. I can't just turn around and leave. Not when it's her. I don't even think as I follow the sound of her voice. Oh, look at us. It's baby McCullough. Lorraine. Lovely Amanda Lorraine... whatever the heck that name is. La Serfiona? I don't know how you get Lorraine from that. She was my friend, the only one that I had at St. Cynthian's. I was a scholar, the charity case, in a school for privileged and prestigious young girls. They all looked down on me, if they cared to look at me or acknowledge my presence at all. All except her.
Oh, stop your crying. You know better than to listen to Maeve.
Maeve? You know, I watched Jacksepticeye play BitLife once, and you know, he's Irish, so he picked like the Irish option or whatever. And the names, how they're spelled versus how they're pronounced, is really wild.
Why, I ought to teach that butterface a lesson.
Butterface?
Wait, no, lass! I don't want you getting into trouble with the sisters again!
Relax. It's not like I'm going to stomp her and her lackey's arses flat like last time.
Come on, let's just go back to our dorm room. I don't want to be on my Tobler while you go get yourself punished.
You'll be fine. Gip's there with you.
Lorraine was there when I needed her, through my highs and my lows. Who's Gip? Having her as a friend made being in a strange school away from my father all the more tolerable. She saw this poor, helpless girl who was kept down and shunned by everyone else, and being the kind soul that she was, she rescued me. So brave, so beautiful. She was something else.
I'll eat all the chocolates stashed away in your closet if you go.
I can get more. Just don't go complaining to me if you get a tummy ache because of that.
Well, you don't want to get detention on a weekend, do you? It's a Friday. We can go to town and have some karaoke. And we can have a go at druids and demons again. You're not going to miss that just because of Maeve, are you?
Sometimes, I question what I did to deserve a friend like her. In the darkest corners of my mind, where traitorous thoughts lurked, I thought that she only felt sorry for me. Maybe she was just being a good Samaritan, offering a helping hand. and perhaps I had been too selfish to return the favor.
You have a point. I'll just kick her arse on Monday then.
That's not what I mean!
I know what you mean, Em.
Wait, where are you going? You just told me you wouldn't cause trouble.
I still have something to do. Don't worry. It's not like I'm going to burn down her dorm room or something criminal like that. I'm just going to talk to her.
She did something.
Maybe I'll make it so that her room smells like a dog's air biscuit. That'll make it an excellent weekend. I'll see you in a bit, Marianne. Lots of tumblers.
What's a toddler? Because when she told me that she loved me, I couldn't admit that I felt the same way. Not to her, and not even to myself. It was wrong. I was taught that way. Husband and wife, one man and woman. Unclean, impure. I prayed for her and I, for our sins and for salvation. I wanted to apologize for disregarding her feelings so callously. It must have been like a slap to the face for her. But life had gotten in the way. Exams, which are trivial in hindsight now, took top priority. I had to keep my grades up to keep my scholarship. For my father. I told myself I would apologize to her when those were over, that I needed to focus first and not let anything distract me. It had been easy when she avoided me like the plague. She was upset, I got that. I thought I had the time to make things right, but...
At 7 in the morning, students found a 5th year dead. Assumed to have fallen from her dormitory window.
They told us that it was an accident. That was the official statement. But I knew better. She was dead because of me. You don't typically fall from your dorm window.
Maeve had a hook and I kicked the bucket, didn't she? Ding dong, the witch is dead!
She had, though she didn't say which, Lorraine.
But at least Maeve had the courage to admit how she felt about me.
I don't even know how long I've been stuck here in a trance. In the mirror, Lorraine smiles at me. She's as beautiful as I remember her. But then... I feel bile rise up in my throat as her clean image warps into how she looked when they'd found her dead, lying on the cold, hard ground. Good Saint Dymphna, great wonder worker in every affliction of mind and body, help me. I'm seeing things, hearing things. Am I going completely insane? Looking everywhere but at her, I hope and pray that it's enough to will whatever this is to go away. It doesn't even immediately register in my head that I can just leave.
You, on the other hand, can't even look me in the eye.
This isn't real. You're dead!
I'm dead. Because of you. And you won't even look at me. Look at me.
My breathing quickens and I can feel my heart being torn apart by her words.
I'm so sorry, Lorraine.
Look at me!
I can't take it because she's right. It was my fault. Least I can do is look at what I've done. Lorraine, broken and bleeding, looks at me with such hate-filled eyes. An unnatural smile stretches across her face and I can only see malice in it. Then she lunges at me as the mirror ripples around her form, the glass parting like the water's surface for her. She grips my shoulders and I can feel her nails dig deep, sharp, even through the fabric of my clothes.
There you are.
What the... I'm pushing D, not pushing A.
You're coming with me.
So that was a new QuickTime event and it sucked. Let's try this one again. Oh, I get it now.
You're coming with me.
So apparently we have to alternate.
You love me!
Apologies spill through my lips as tears cloud my vision. Yeesh. So I wonder if it's possible for Marianne to not get locked in the cellar. We'll see. But I won't give in to this madness. With every bit of strength I have left, I struggle to get away from her. Fear grips and threatens to choke me. I endure, I escape. Without turning back, I stumble out. In my panic, I don't even care to look where I'm going. With one hand on the wall to steady me, I just hobble as fast as I can away from the study, away from that mirror. Freedom is bittersweet. I'm free from the madness, it seems, as running out into the hallway reveals it to be in pristine condition. But it means I've turned my back on the rain, again. I have no plans of stopping, not until I know I'm safe. And if that means walking back to Luxborn, as ridiculous as the idea is, then so be it. Someone suddenly grabs hold of me, however. Fingers dig deep into my shoulder and my heart nearly stops. My body seizes and I nearly scream.
Marianne, you look awful. I mean, not awful, but did something happen? Are you alright?
This is right.
Without thinking, I sought comfort, seeing that it wasn't her. It was a sudden, impulsive thing to do, and had I been in a better condition, I wouldn't even dare of doing such a thing, and then Luke just walks in and is like, what the frick is this? But I didn't know what else to do. Though I know I shouldn't, her warmth, her scent, they grounded me. She is intoxicating.
Marianne, what's going on? Oh, you're shaking like a leaf.
Tremors run through my body as soon as my mind realizes I am no longer in danger. I wanted to cry, scream about what I'd seen, but like a scared child, I couldn't control myself. My mind couldn't reconcile with what I had seen. I should just write it off as a figment of my imagination, yet I could still feel her nails cutting into my skin.
Are you sick? Should I call for a doctor?
I'm sorry, Mrs. Wright. Just feeling a little woozy and lightheaded is all.
Let's get you somewhere to sit down then. Come on, don't worry, I have you.
A lie, but a whole lot less complicated than telling her I was attacked by a dead girl. When the feeling of fear eases off, I feel nothing but shame for my actions. I quickly back away as I clear my throat and nod my thanks.
I think I've had enough looking around. If it's all right with you and Mr. Wright, I'll meet you outside.
If you're sure, I'll have the car started. Do you need assistance heading downstairs?
I'm all right, ma'am. Just go on ahead and I'll be right there.
It seems to placate her worries, though only for a brief second. Where she heads down, I don't miss the concerned glance she shoots my way, hidden quickly under her another smile. I won't begrudge her for it, that worry. The look on my face must have been a strange enough sight on its own. Even I am still reeling from whatever that was. Her voice still whispers in my ears. After all these years, she's still... No, Marianne. Shaking my head at the thoughts, I drag in a breath and follow shortly after Mrs. Wright. Whatever had happened in the past, it's long gone. Only memories now. And those are things I can no longer bring back. It's already dark as we make our way out of the mansion. With no lights, we are only illuminated by the headlamps of the Wright's car and the stars up above us. The sight of them helps me compose myself much more than the several minutes of being alone did. The car's engine is running, yet the two stand still out on the lawn. Mrs. Wright is busy, eyes up to the stars, and Mr. Wright, arms crossed, his eyes down on the ground. It is the crunch of the grass underneath my heels that brings their attention to me.
About time. What took you so long? A minute longer and I'd think the house swallowed you all up.
Oh, hush, dear. I'm sure she has her reasons. Marianne doesn't seem the sort to idle.
Sorry, I was just checking on something important.
See, business is business and they take time, love. You should know that better than anyone. So, Marianne, what do you think? Are you the woman for the job? I know we already signed papers hiring you, but I want to be 100% sure that you are committed.
Rather who I thought I saw there, because there's just no way. Skipping a bit. Not to mention how I acted towards Mrs. Wright, for goodness sake. I should feel the slightest bit hesitant. I was lucky. I've seen enough films to know what happens when a promiscuous woman enters a haunted house. This is my chance to turn it down, make excuses, say that I'm not up to the task, that I need to take care of my old sick father. So skipping dialogue, back in town, we're at home. We're gonna be having that freaky nightmare, probably. They are so creepy together. There's our cat. Back in the mansion. This is probably when we get stuck to the one cellar. And they're bringing the mirror down, and I look away, not wishing to risk anything. I see Lorraine's image in the mirror now. I don't know what I would do. Marianne examined the first floor upon arrival at the mansion. After a small talk with Hannah Wright, Marianne headed for the study. She saw a ghost from her past reflected in the mirror. Despite that, she gave her word that she would see through the project until the end. I don't have the luxury of privacy right now, and I am not going to break down in front of all these people. Oh, we're going back upstairs. Oh, this is the conversation. So, we'll move on. Plus with Hannah and Luke. Yay, we're maxed with Hannah. No matter how bizarre the conversation must get, it really must go. I think we're probably still gonna get trapped in the wine cellar.
You're not gonna go out.
We're gonna try and lighten the mood because we're not trying to hook up with you. Oh, we're back in the city again. Oh, we're going to the pub.
I take it the investigation isn't going well.
When does it ever? But that's not the problem. No, it's...
Is this about that hit and run from yesterday's morning news? I saw it. I just didn't know if it was the same girl you're always groaning on about. But this just proves it, doesn't it? You don't have a drink.
She might never wake up, G, and we can't find the son of a bitch that thought it was alright just to leave her there in the road.
That's true, because even if you take out the ghost from the equation, someone did still run her over.
Can't you just run plates nowadays? I mean, I just got a ticket for a busted tail light the other day. They were on that quicker than you can say Bob's your uncle.
The footage is a mess for some reason, and the tech guys are trying to clean it up, which just skeeves me off, you know. Those things are HD traffic and security cams. They haven't failed before.
And you're thinking there's something foul afoot, is that it?
Maybe it was the police chief. Their talk would have interested me, would have kept my attention if I gave a damn. Yep, so we're drunk, we're super drunk. Nope, no dialogue there. There's our nightmare again. Can't even close my eyes to think I ever say, dead girl, dead. She's dead. I have to keep reminding myself that, burying my feelings as deep as they've buried her body, 6 feet under. I shouldn't waste so much time on someone who's supposed to be gone. I've wasted so many years thinking about her already. There should be no need to bother myself with the dead when I should be bothering myself with the living. Too bad the living are usually as complicated, if not more, than ghosts of the past.
But don't you have a party?
Yes. But Luke's just being a sweetie, you see. That friend he's visiting. He's having
This is the same conversation, so we can skip past that. I'm trying to stick to the actual relationship stuff.
Please. It's really important.
15 minutes.
Down to the wine cellar. The mirror that had been moved from the study is my goal. I did not return to it after my initial discovery, but the thought of Lorraine, how much I want to see her again, even if it's just for one more time, keeps coming back to my mind. That's the drop bottle. We had that one already. Propped up on the far wall, it gleams innocently while pretending to be a simple and ordinary mirror. How morbid to think this thing can show a person their deepest, most desperate desires, and then twist it into an image so dark. That's what I had seen that day. Though I heard Lorraine many times, I'd only seen her within its frame. I wonder if people have discovered it before. How many were wasted away in front of it, enamored, and how many were frightened away by what they saw? As I stand before it now, nothing. I can barely see my own reflection in this darkness.
How does this even work? Mirror, mirror on the wall? Something? Anything?
Nothing. Touching its surface doesn't make it magically activate or anything like that. There's no sudden surge of power, and I am not suddenly granted sight. It stays what it is, a mirror. Was Lorraine's disappearance in the mirror all some sort of fever dream? Am I really that burdened with guilt and despair that my mind would eat itself in my stress and have me hallucinate such things? Either way, just going here on some crazed obsession for a girl long gone must warrant me a trip to the doctor. Already I feel ill. After a few more minutes, in the hopes that something would change, I turn around to leave. I can just go back upstairs like nothing ever happened, perhaps drop by the party for some hors d'oeuvres, then go home and collect myself. Besides, Mrs. Reddick's expecting me, and I'm
Going to leave me again then, are you?
I stop in my tracks, but I don't turn back. As much as it pains me, I don't look back. I'm just hearing her again, desperately delusional, and I look back to see nothing. I don't want to give myself false hope. When I feel fingers around my wrist pull at me, I look back in shock. My first thought is, how in God's name is this possible? And the second is, Lorraine. Her hands are cold.
Are you that mad at me that you're just going to ignore me, Marianne?
I don't know what to say, and I can only stare at her in wonder. She stands there in the mirror, with only her arm extended outward for my sake. I look at the hand still holding my wrist, and when she sees me looking at it, she moves it so that our hands are intertwined, fingers weaving together. Seeing her there, and feeling her touch, meant I'm not crazy. Though however impossible and unexplained, this is all to me right now. It just takes my breath away. Pulling her out from there is tempting. I can imagine doing so with ease. We can be together again, Lorraine and Marianne, like nothing has ever happened. But that would be all a great big lie, wouldn't
What?
it?
Tack out your tongue. Don't just look at me like that. Say something.
Even if this thing were some magical portal that could bring back the dead, that doesn't erase anything. Just looking at her, still a young teenager while I'm already a grown woman, it serves no other reason than to break the illusion that binds me. I've seen her twice now, always behind the mirror. If this is real, if this isn't some delusion, then why can she only exist behind the glass?
Yeah. You have no idea how happy I am to see you. It's been so long.
You don't look happy.
I really am happy, but at the same time, I can't help but think about what happened to you.
And what does that mean? What are you saying?
She gives me this peculiar look, and before my eyes she moves to step out of the mirror. In turn, I wrench my hand from her and take a step back, almost as if I'm afraid.
I don't know how this is possible, but whatever this is, it isn't real. You can't be real.
I'm right here, aren't I? What other proof do you need?
I love that their school had a pink uniform.
No. I see you. I hear you. I feel you. But even with all that, you can't be real. You just can't. I saw your body. I helped bury you.
You helped bury me?
You're dead.
A deep hurt crosses her face, and it just breaks my heart in two, seeing her wear that expression.
Burying me wasn't the only thing you did. Don't you dare lie. But I'm going to be the bigger woman, aren't I? Let bygones be bygones. I'll forgive you. As long as you stay with me, Marianne. That's why you came down here, right? To find me?
That was the plan. I came down here looking for her, for closure. But this isn't just closure. This is something else entirely. I didn't think I would be forced to make such a choice. I need to move on. Closure. That's all I came here for. Whatever this is, it might as well just be a devil's trick. And I might as well make some use of it, right? I say nothing at first for fear of angering whatever phantom this is. I take Lorraine's hand and bring it to my lips, pressing a kiss to her knuckles. She takes it as some sort of invitation to pull me along, to step back into the mirror until only her arm is extended again.
I should have been more honest back then. Both to you and myself. I know it's too late. I'm sorry. But
the thought of being with the dead did not agree with me, not one bit.
I can't stay with you.
So what? You're going to leave me for some old trophy wife? That's it, isn't it? You're going to leave poor Amy Lorraine and go after the next rich, pretty blonde that you see.
This is a mistake.
All these years, guilt has been my driving force. I felt so guilty for what I did, what I didn't do.
She thinks she can guilt me into becoming complacent, but she realizes otherwise as I pull my hand from her. And going by the look of anger on her face, an anger that runs cold, she did not like the fact that I'm not some puppet on a string. Had she chosen her words carefully, I would have accepted whatever punishment Lorraine chooses to give me. Guilt had branded my life, and it might as very well ended it. Because I deserved it.
But what I did to me. The blood in my hands is mine, not yours.
Whoever or whatever this shadow is, my gut tells me she's not Lorraine. Yet I keep talking as if she is.
I broke your heart, not your neck.
Don't you dare deny it! It was your fault!
Because I loved you more than I dare to admit? Yes, that was my fault, but I never meant to hurt you like that.
Despite my words, no matter how sincere they are, she appears angry, enraged in fact. It's been years since I last saw that face, and even now, the memory of it is still etched deeply in my mind. The hurt, the tears, and the hate spilling from her eyes that day, the moment I rejected her. Rejected myself for who I am, and she definitely will hate what I am about to do next. To my left, a wine rack. And from there, I take a bottle and pray to all the saints I can remember. For all my sins, for every hurtful word I've uttered. For what I have driven her to do that day, what I forced her into.
What are you doing?
I do it without thinking twice. Quickly, before I can hesitate, I grab a bottle and send it straight towards the mirror. Shards of the bottle on the mirror are sent flying everywhere as Lorraine's screams echo in the cellar. Bitter, searing, like every wounding accusation she hurled at me. They've never left me. I doubt they ever will. But with this, I can move away from them, from her, live my life as I should, free from the burden. Her burden. Because the Lorraine I know, the real one, the person I loved would never want me carrying this to my death. As the screaming dies down, I can't help but mutter weakly.
It's done. It's done. Oh, Lorraine. Forgive me, Lorraine.
I take some time to compose myself, breathing in and out, stamping down on the tremors, still racking my hands, straightening out my jacket, and fixing my hair, all in a weak attempt at returning myself to someone resembling my normal self. This would probably be easier to do so with a mirror, but I likely won't be able to stand looking at one for a long time.
Well now, I should probably go back up there. Party to attend, rich socialites to do business with, and food to eat. Mrs. Wright will be happy if I make some time for it anyway.
Yet one last time to the shattered glass beneath my feet.
I'm sorry, Lorraine. May you see God's light on the path.
Turning around to leave, and for good this time, the uneasy on my face smiles as I see Lorraine. Falls as I see Lorraine, hole in one.
Come on, Mac. You really didn't think it would be that easy, did you? You get bonus points for trying, but you should know innate charisma is not enough to turn undead.
She advances towards me, backs me against the wall. I can't even reach for another wine bottle without putting myself within her reach. Kick her! She's a tiny girl! Despite my earlier bravado, I didn't think she'll be able to exist at all without the mirror. Can you blame me, though? It's not like I'm an expert on the supernatural.
That's not... You shouldn't be...
What? After the mirror, did you think just moving on will erase what you did to me? You're nothing but a murderer, Marianne. A murderer!
Stay back. You're not real. Leave me alone. Stop! I'm trying to move on with my life, so why won't you let me? Please! Just get out of my head and leave me be!
I try to find an exit when there's a click. Next thing I know, I'm falling back into darkness. I follow my back and a door slams shut behind me. Up here. Desperate to deal with her painful past, Marianne McCullough excused herself from attending the housewarming party to search for Amy Lorraine within the mansion. Seeing her ghost in the wine cellar, however, a realization hit her and she finally let go. In a daze, I looked around warily and found myself in another room entirely. On the other side of the wall, some sort of secret passage perhaps, an underground tunnel that has me wary and frightened. It also proves that the oddities in the mansion's floor plans are a lot more than just little discrepancies. I expect Lorraine to jump out at me from the darkness at any time. A breeze blowing through the tunnel has me relieved, though, at the idea that there is still a way to escape that, should that happen. That is better than being trapped underground with only God knows what that was. A funny thought comes to mind as I start walking to where the exit might be. I think about how Mrs. Wright would be so disappointed if I didn't show up at the party. I imagine how furious Mr. Wright would be for breaking one of his wine bottles. Even Johannes' reaction comes to mind, though I don't really know that with that guy. One thing's for sure, is that I would be calling Cam and Haruna for a drink as soon as I get out of here. That noise has me wary. A ghastly thing, a corpse of a woman, leans on the wall. Her arms and limbs, almost every inch of her lithe body, is peppered with wounds and rotting flesh.
How long has this been here? Ugh.
Yeah, we got this one before.
What's wrong, Marianne? Are you really afraid of little old me?
There's only dread, seeing how she's followed me even here. She looms over me, backs me further into the cell that I was thrown in. Don't go back into the cell.
It's so cold. I don't want to be alone, Marianne. Why won't you stay with me? Why would you leave me? Why? What are you?
The rain turns and shifts into that thing from before. And with that same gruesome grin, it takes a step forward towards the cell. Towards me. I barely scrambled on my knees when the door to the cell slams shut and it just stands there staring. Yeah, we've seen all this before.
No, what? Look at this thing then. Oh, what?
Okay, now we're Rebecca. Okay, so Rebecca's at school, talking to Miss Cooper, runs into Kylie. I don't know when she learns about the accident. Goes to the mansion to pick up Isabella. Isabella's not there. Rebecca has a weird episode. Meets the others at the movies, is super ticked off. Rebecca and Isabella and Ashton were together. We read the letter, and we fight. We should get some new dialogue in the movie theater. Because we've only ever picked the mean option with Ashton. And we're going for an Ashton-Rebecca romance. Check my journal. Good thing it's not difficult with him. Once you know how and what makes Ashton tick, getting him in a conversation doesn't take much effort. Amusing how most people often assume he's hard to approach, when in reality, it's the opposite.
What about you?
What about me?
Don't play coy. We haven't heard anything decent from you. Except for those memes you leave in the chat box every morning.
Hey, they're funny.
To you, maybe. Belle hates them.
No, she doesn't. I know she likes them well enough.
Believe what you will, but that's beside the point. You've been quiet since your promotion last year, even more so after you got assigned to your current case.
I trail off, letting the sound speak my meaning instead of the words I don't utter. There's no need to voice each of them out. I know he understands perfectly what I'm trying to get at. He always did. It's evident when his whole demeanor shifts, the carefree air around him gone at once, his shoulders losing their laid-back slant.
You know I can't talk in detail about that.
Well then, talk about something else. It doesn't have to be any of those things. It could be anything under the sun. It's not so hard.
Rebecca, out of everyone else, you know how this whole thing works. I can't just...
We do worry, you know? Zachary worries. Isabella worries.
I worry. Though his mouth briefly opens, nothing comes of it except for a contemplative frown. I want to tell him more. Drill the idea into his head again and again until he says something. Make him remember this one little thing before he runs off to God knows where, doing God knows what. Again. Instead, we fall back into one of these wordless phases both of us seem to share a lot as of late. Same old song and dance. Ranting might be useless at this point, but I won't take it back. I begin to count the passing seconds, vaguely wishing for Zachary's arrival or the movie start, something else to concentrate on. But as soon as I think that would be the end of it, he speaks. Hesitant, careful in his choice of words.
The chief found a new attempt to pull a prank on the other week.
Is that even allowed?
Using the police car? No.
And that doesn't bother anyone? At all?
Maybe a few. But he's the chief. chances are he'll probably get swept under the rug. It doesn't really matter. Everyone knows he's harmless when he's like that. Probably just procrastinating on his paperwork. Eventually, he'll also get tired of the new temp. I'll give it a week or so, and... Oh yeah, speaking of the new temp, Inspector Carl.
Inspector Carl's a traitor! So out of the blue, yet so equally mundane. Boring, dull, nothing's remotely special about his attempt at small talk, yet despite myself, a fond smile still spreads across my face. Feels nothing less than the old days, back when things were less complicated, back when it was only the two of us. A lot has really changed in 17 years when you think about it. I've grown out of my shell, for one. Maybe even a little too much from that shy little girl who someone else had to defend from bullies. I mean, who would have thought she'd ever become a teacher after that? Then again, if it weren't for Ash, things might not have changed at all. I suppose it's something I'll always owe him, how he's always stood by me, how he's become that one constant in my life after all these years. And sitting beside him like this, again, like how we used to, I wish time would simply stand still.
Rebecca!
His voice immediately snaps me out of my little daydream. I don't even get a short moment to compose or berate myself for it. Because when I glance up, I find him peering at me, face too close to mine for comfort. He quickly makes his way up to my face while I fumble for words to answer him with.
Oh, yeah.
Were you even listening?
Sorry. I just got distracted. The weeks before exams are always the busiest.
You look a bit red in the face, though. You okay? Isabella mentioned you've been sick.
I'm fine, really. Don't listen to her.
Sure?
I'm sure, Ash. I was already feeling well enough this morning. Do you think I'll be able to work if I wasn't? She's just making a bigger deal out of something that...
The rest of what I'm saying easily dies on my tongue as he places a hand on my forehead. It's only to check my temperature, I'm fully aware of that. But with him this close, eyes searching and curious, I can pretend he loves me the way I want him to. Pretend I'm the one he sees, when a tender look he so rarely spares anyone crosses his face. Pretend it's something he only does for me, even if the truth's far from it.
You don't seem to have any fever, but we can ask Zach if you're not feeling well.
I swat his hand away at once, ignoring how much my own heart clenches at the loss of contact.
Don't! Belle already left. We can't bail out on Zachary now. If another one of us leaves, how do you think he'll feel about that?
I could stay with him?
Don't be ridiculous. It's not going to be the same thing. Besides, I'm really okay now, so leaving is out of the question.
Who's leaving?
I have to suppress my laughter when Ash's expression dissolves into a tiny frown. A whole slew of arguments must have already been at the tip of his tongue. Luckily, Zachary chooses that moment to show up, his sudden arrival preventing whatever this is from escalating into something that can go both ways. A grin is the only answer I can give with the question in the man's eyes.
No one!
Becca.
We were just talking about his coworker.
Oh. Is anybody I know in particular? Retiring or something?
There's a split-second pause before Ashton answers. When his sour look once again lifts into a small smile, I know it's the moment he decides to abandon the topic altogether. It's not like he can win against me anymore.
Not really. It was just a few people being transferred lately.
Usual bureaucracy, huh?
You could say that. Chief's just annoyed at the paperwork.
Zachary, why don't you sit down first? Before you two start talking about workplace politics of all bloody things. I'd hate to get caught in the middle of it.
Zachary gives out a hearty laugh, but quickly moves to take the unoccupied seat on Ashton's other side. If he's ever worried about less than stellar attendance to his movie, it doesn't show on his face. In fact, for the better half of the evening, only a cheery mood permeates in the air. Whatever hiccups we previously ran into, uncalled for jealousies, petty squabbles, and foolish chain letters, are wholly forgotten at the back of our minds. If only all four of us were here. The rest of the evening passes without further event, though we don't stay long after. Though we still have a long night ahead of us and chances of spending together what little free time we have micro slim in the next days. Sometimes there are things you simply can't force, a sentiment we all likely share at the moment, if the silence before we part ways tells anything. Even Zachary seems reluctant to break it.
Well, it was fun.
Once he notices, though, a wry smile makes its way into his face. His apology. Like every other time, it'll suffice.
Yeah. I need to double check something with the guys at the precinct.
Same way then. You're gonna be fine on your...
So, trying to call Isabel, see the ghost in the car. Immediately after I read the news this morning, I called her. Offered to treat her to a free dinner to help me take her mind off of things, because knowing her, this might turn into another episode where she locks herself up in her room. Rebecca and Ashton were seen chatting while waiting for the movie start, and the farmer reminisced on the times when they were still children. On her way back home, Rebecca glimpsed something suspicious at the backseat of her car. It doesn't happen frequently. She's grown sensible, that much at least. But I might as well prevent it before we go down that road. The last time it did, less than 5 years ago, after the incident at Devlin Court, it took Ashton of all people to coax her out of her sulk. She isn't the one responsible for Miss Cooper's death, but this will weigh on her regardless. After all, that woman was her mentor. It was only a brief period years ago, and they never worked together again after, but she still feels like she owes the woman a lot up to this day. So they really didn't know each other that well. I thought they, worked together every day. To my relief, she agreed. Even promised she'd meet me at St. Coretti right after my classes. Though it is a bit odd of her to ask me to stay safe before suddenly cutting off our talk. Everything's going swimmingly. What isn't part of her plan is her failing to turn up, leaving me waiting for hours. This isn't St. Coretti. This is the cafe.
Where the bloody hell is she?
4 hours from the time we agreed on it. Still, 4 hours, and you're just sitting there. Where did she go? You're not worried? Rebecca has a special brand of concern for people. Yet I've received not a single call or text from her. I tried. The ghost was interfering with my reception. This after took the courtesy and effort of sending her a message, telling her where I'm headed to when I had to leave the school. She could have done that too, at least, and saved me the trouble of waiting.
Oh, she can be such a child sometimes. I swear, if she locked herself up in that room, she's not going to hear the end of this.
Glancing at my watch only stirs up my temper further. Almost closing time now. With the exception of a few still in line for some late-night coffee and snack, or those simply finishing their food, the small crowd inside has started to thin out, so I wonder if she sees her lying in the road. Half of the normally bustling place is now empty, and the speakers have stopped playing music seconds ago. Still, I wish they'd kept it going for more than a few minutes. I can do with some relaxing music right now, especially with the pitying looks the manager and the one manning the cashier are giving me. Once I hit my second hour of waiting here. Hey, we got a new image. We got a coffee or something. The former even offered me another cup for free after I drank through my second one earlier. Naturally, I appreciate the gesture. This woman is nothing but kind to us in the times Isabel and I happen to catch her here. This time, however, they probably think my date stood me up or something, even if the reality falls far from it. Extremely far. Honestly, this is more like waiting for your child after school, if there's any comparison to make. Although if it were Ashton, if we ever go on a date, I doubt he'd ever do this. He would. He may be an embarrassing friend to have for Zachary and Isabella in his odd moments, but he's definitely a reliable guy. Flash forward to the party. Probably the only one I've ever had the chance of knowing this long, except for Zachary.
If he won't make it, I'm sure he'll at least have the decency to inform me beforehand.
Not that I'll ever have the courage to ask him, or anything of that sort happening anytime soon. I haven't even forgotten my poor attempt at a confession back in secondary. I wrote a short letter for him then, only for it to end up unread and hidden away someplace. Might have already lost it, in fact, after I moved out from home, along with the diary I used to religiously write on. The diary that was the prequel app to this. I believe it's free on iOS. But all of that's irrelevant and a wholly different matter from this. Besides, it's getting late. It's already quite obvious Isabella has no plans of ever showing up tonight, and if she thinks she's getting away from pulling such a stunt on me, she's got another thing coming for her. When I called her this morning, I genuinely believe she's better than that childish part of her, but this simply proves things otherwise, doesn't it? She should be thankful. It's only because of my own stubbornness and good faith in her that I stayed here beyond the bounds of what my own patience allows me.
And look where that got me.
I might as well leave now, too. Considering the loud blaring of sirens passing by outside, getting home tonight might take longer. Probably an accident. They rarely happen here in Luxbourne. But not entirely unheard of. Most of the time, it just results in heavy traffic and a few roads nearby being temporarily closed off. If she's that late, has she been lying in the street for hours? Judging from the direction the police mobiles head to and from where the ambulance came from earlier, it's the same route I take.
Joy of joys.
Without delaying, I gather my things in my bag, shoot a quick thanks to the cafe's personnel for allowing me to stay this long, and hastily leave the place. Hopefully I'm not too late and the side streets aren't too congested yet. However, not 2 steps out, my mobile rings all of a sudden, effectively stopping me in my tracks. I answer it without checking the screen, fully expecting to hear of Isabella's string of apologies and excuses. A series of reprimands is already at the tip of my tongue. Friends or not, what she did is simply unacceptable. She needs to learn. She's 26, for goodness sake.
Isabella! I've been waiting for hours!
Oh, is it gonna be told to us from Ashton? It's more fun when they learn directly.
Where the bloody fucking hell are you? We agreed on a time, didn't we? This isn't funny, you know?
But the one that responds on the other end isn't her voice. This one is deeper, almost out of breath, and talks with a bit of a hurried note.
Rebecca, it's me.
Oh, Ashton. Ash, why are you calling me so suddenly? Do you need something?
She should probably apologize for screaming at him.
Where are you right now? Salem well?
No, but I'm about to head home. I was supposed to meet with Isabella after school. She never showed up, though. Why?
Ashton doesn't immediately answer, however. Go to the hospital! There's a surprise waiting for you there, Rebecca. Most of his reply, I find myself focused instead on the noise coming from his side. People shouting orders from afar, a few curses flying off and about, and someone yelling at another poor bloke. There's also the low murmur of what appears to be a small group of people around him. Farther back, if I strain my ears in the din of car horns and vehicles driving past. He must have been assigned on another case, called to another crime scene, in the middle of the night at that. He'll probably end up spending time there until the investigations last, likely until tomorrow, without even getting any shut-eye or short rest. My lips press tight at that, but I don't say anything. Any attempts to call him out on it before has resulted in an argument. The best I can do at the minute is keep these opinions to myself, no matter how much I disapprove of it, even if I'm not the only one who shares the same opinion. Even Zachary and Isabella have something to say about it. I'm simply the most vocal out of the three of us. That aside, none of this explain why he's calling me in the middle of his work.
Ash, are you still there? I'll be home soon. If this'll take time, just call my landline number. Give me about half an hour. I should be able to find a quicker route home, hopefully.
No, Becca, don't go home yet.
It's going to get late if I don't leave now, Ash. There seems to have been an accident along the route I take, too. I'm not sure, but I saw a couple of police mobiles rushing past a few minutes ago. You wouldn't happen to know anything about that, do you?
Becca, about that. I need you to get yourself to the hospital.
Hospital? Right now? Why?
A hollow feeling suddenly creeps down to my stomach despite having eaten dinner mere minutes ago. Ashton's hesitation doesn't help either. Whatever his reasons for calling, it can only be taken as unpleasant based solely on his tone.
Ash, is there a problem? Wait, it isn't you, is it?
Ash, are you dead?
Did you get hurt or something? I told you to never make a joke about that. Please tell me this isn't one of those...
It's not for me. Calm down, Becca.
Yeah, it's not for me, it's your best friend.
Well, why the sudden need for a hospital visit then? I sure as hell am not sick. Who's it for?
Silence again. If this dilly-dallying is simply his reluctance or he's just carefully measuring the weight of his next words, I can't tell. For all his good looks, he can be brutally blunt even without putting a concerted effort on it. In our small circle, unless we really have no other choice, no one ever trusts him with the tasks of delivering bad news. And this is one, isn't it? Who put him up to this? The fact that he's dragging it out like this only increases my apprehension.
Ashton, if you're just going to hum and haw for the next 5 minutes, we're better off...
It's Isabella.
Come again?
Isabella. Scaredy cat. She's... Okay, listen up. You didn't hear this from me, and you're not the one who should have heard it first, but someone has to be there with her, and I can't.
Hold on. What exactly happened? I was just talking to her this morning. Now you're telling me she somehow ended up in a hospital?
Yeah, that accident you mentioned earlier. It's...
Bloody hell, Ashton, out with it!
Just a few hours ago, a car ran her over while she was crossing the street. I can't give the details yet. We're still checking on the cams, but the driver fled afterwards.
I wonder if we'll ever learn who the driver was.
She was left bleeding in the road.
All at once is that the wind has been knocked out of me, and remembering how to breathe becomes a whole different endeavor altogether. My hand makes its way over my mouth as I fight the tremors gradually sweeping over me. Little by little, the memories of the last few hours rush back to me. Her asking me to keep myself safe, my calls going unanswered for a long period, and the passing wails of an ambulance.
She was still breathing when the paramedics arrived, but I won't lie, her condition's critical. Concussion, multiple fractures, and internal bleeding. They said she lost so much blood, and it'll be a miracle if she makes it through the night. Damn it, when I find the bastard who did this.
What about Zach? Zachary, does he know already? Shouldn't we tell him about this too?
No, not yet. Don't tell him anything yet. Let's just keep the circle small for now. I don't want to alarm him.
You can't really keep this a secret, especially if you don't think she'll survive the night.
I'll tell him myself tomorrow, but I need you to hurry to the hospital. Can you do that for me? You're the only one I can trust with this right now.
Yeah, I'll be there. No problem. Don't worry about it.
All right, okay. That's one problem off the list. Thanks, Becca. I'll keep you updated with how things are on my side. I need to go.
He ends the call abruptly, without so much as a goodbye or a single reassurance everything would be okay. He doesn't know. None of us knows, and we can only hope, amidst the fading sirens in the distance, like the very life quickly slipping away in front of us. When my body finally moves, despite trembling hands and knees, threatening to buckle at any time, it's only this single-minded desperation to reach her that pursues me. Please. Please hang in there. Isabella never showed up after agreeing to meet up with Rebecca for dinner. However, as Rebecca was about to head home, she received an alarming call from Ashton. Isabella's in a critical state at Ermengarde Memorial Hospital after being involved in a car accident. The whole world is almost too quiet when I arrive. No paramedics or nurses zooming past, no doctors in scrubs blaring out orders, or even patients moaning and whimpering in the triaging area. She's already been taken to the trauma room according to the overhead announcements. They announce that kind of thing?
Attention, please. Adult Tier 1 trauma alert. Please respond to the trauma center, shock room 4.
None of this is what I'm expecting, the lack of chaos. with the air so calm and unstirring, in spite of what's taking place beyond this waiting room, so unlike what they often depict in the telly. Well, it'd be foolish of me to believe any of those shows. There may be some degree of accuracy in it, true, but it's all often done for the sake of entertainment and stirring up people's emotions. Yet despite fully knowing that, I still crave for the noise and the commotion, the worried voices, or even the shouting. Anything, whatever will temporarily take the edge off my nerves. Instead, much like everything today, all I get to have when a trauma nurse finally shows up is an impassive declaration of, "She's in a critical condition, ma'am." Nothing I've not yet heard of from Ashton before. It doesn't spare me another word, not even a single explanation of what they're doing to Isabella. In the next minute, I'm being entrusted with her belongings, everything now smeared and reeking of fresh blood. This does not seem like something they would do. And shouldn't this stuff still be at the scene? Afterwards, it's back to the silence again, longer this time, with only glass doors' occasional whizzing, as well as the nearly wooden voice over the hospital's intercom for company.
Paging Dr. Nicholas Vogel to Lord William Ward. Shock Room 4. Please report to Trauma Center Shock Room 4 stat.
Hey, that's his name up on this plaque.
Dr. Vogel, please.
But who am I to demand for more, when in some part of this bloody emergency ward, Isabella's fighting for her life? In the end, no matter what my complaints are, what I want to hear or see, they're all useless here. I'm useless
Dr.
here.
Vogel, please report to the Trauma Center Shock Room 4 stat.
All I can do is sit down and wait, go through every small motion to keep myself occupied, prevent my mind from thinking of every ugly scenario this might lead to. Because as stubborn, annoying, or childish as I regard her time and again, I
don't want to lose a friend to this.
Not in this manner. And it's that thought I hold firmly to. As the hours go by, as the halls grow quieter and everything around me turns dimmer, bleaker, it's what I cling on, along with a small plea at the heart of it. A muttered prayer, desperate and earnest all at once.
I've never been the religious kind. I don't think I ever will identify as one.
Oh, she is atheist.
But if there's some other force, someone out there who can hear, please listen to me just this once.
Please don't take her away. Before long, sleep claims me, fraught with lasting images of blood and a single voice on a vain struggle with death. Thus the waiting game begins. The following morning arrives like any other day before it, bright and clear, as if the world hasn't completely tilted out of focus the night before, like nothing ever happened. It's a good day by common standards, albeit one I can't fully appreciate. Maybe I would have if it wasn't the hospital's glaring fluorescence that greeted me first, or my eyes aren't rough with sleep, or I've chosen a more comfortable place to doze off. Even better, I've gotten more pleasant news than what I received after waiting on hours on end. But times like this, you simply take what you can get. It could have been worse. We could have easily lost her. The doctors and nurses said so. But by some bullheaded miracle, we didn't. What do you know? She's actually found some use for her stubbornness. If she survives this, it seems this will be the last time I rail on her about that. I might have saved her after all. They had to induce coma, yes. It may not be what we wanted, but it sure as hell isn't the end for her, and that's enough. That's good enough. We can work from there. At least, like this, we know in her own little way, Isabella's still fighting, and hoping isn't such a futile thing for us. Zachary thinks so. Despite having almost resigned himself to the fact that there's nothing we can do here but wait and expect the worst. Even when uncertainty starts to have its sway on me, all he has for me are reassurances.
You did the right thing, Rebecca.
You don't know that. What if she doesn't? Do you see all of... She can't even...
The point is, this ain't... Have some faith in her.
I do have...
Go get some rest.
But Isabel...
I'll take care. Go home. You keep...
I don't know if it's the optimism in his tone that did it. But at his words, regardless of the mood around us, some of the exhaustion finally lifts. Enough for a soft chuckle to slip out from me. How odd. Out of all people, Zachary's the last person I ever expected to pick me up from. After all, we've never been particularly close. At best, we're good friends. We talk, we laugh when the situation calls for it, but admittedly, none of those will ever occur if Ashton or Isabella aren't there. It's not entirely uncomfortable, but awkward nevertheless. We simply can't seem to find something to talk about without those two to drive the conversation. Still, here he is, in spite of that gap or whatever dark cloud was hanging above his head lately. I can't possibly reject his offer knowing that, can I?
This feels like a conversation I had with Isabella a few days ago. I said, maybe. Are you?
Nah, no. Besides, focus on do it forever.
We'll do. If so.
You'll be the football. The crazy thing.
I hope so. I'll see you later.
I give him a smile before leaving. Frankly, it's a weak and half-hearted attempt at encouragement, and whether it's intended to be for me or for him, I don't linger over it. At the end of the day, we both need any little strength we can muster and extend between us, in whatever form those may choose to come. The door closes behind me with a soft clink, at last muffling the ceaseless beeping from the machines. But I know this isn't the last time we'll be hearing those. Hope y'all don't mind the skipping of parts like that, because we've already seen that dialogue like 2 seconds ago. A wholly different atmosphere meets me when I step out of the hallway. Sterile, placid, along with the sharp, bitter air dangling oppressively above my head as I make my way out of the ward. Stands at a stark contrast to the room I came from only seconds ago. With a whole place like this, Zachary's passing remark about Isabella years ago rings truer. He's right. There's always been this certain warmth she carried around with her wherever she went. A sudden, sprightly kind. Reminds you a little of home and those childhood memories so often forgotten, something I both envy and ignore in her to the point of taking it for granted. But in spite of the circumstances she's trapped in now, it remains with her in that room. And leaving it like this is a douse of cold water. Every thought, every responsibility, every worry I've set aside last night returns to me tenfold. Someone has to inform BRC. And there's also her aunt who works in another county. She needs to know as well, her family in the Philippines too. And though he never asked for it, I'm sure Ashton will also appreciate any news on her condition.
Bloody hell. This is supposed to be easy.
Call and deliver the news, simple as that. Offer small soothing words if need be, no matter how meaningless or how flat they fall in the other's ears. Yet my hand wavers. The moment I pull my phone out, my whole body freezes. I stop in my tracks while my thumb hovers uselessly over the names on the screen. Her aunt, her mom, Ashton. The letters on it flicker brightly, almost accusingly, at my stalling. How would they react? How would her family feel hearing from someone they've never even met before? How do I tell them? What do I say? There are a million ways this can go, none of them pleasant, all of them out of my control.
But I can't simply pawn this off on someone else, can I?
Even before I agreed to be her emergency contact, I always known the responsibilities that came with being named one. At a young age, I already did, and Isabella's trust goes as far as to put me in that list. If that doesn't say what she thinks of this little friendship, I don't know what else will. And now I walk at it.
That simply isn't how the Scotswoman in my blood does things.
So before I lose this sudden resolve or stumble back into another cycle of negative thoughts, I press down on the call button. Ashton first. I'll think about how I will deal with the others later. Though I still have no clue how I'll open this topic, the news is still a far cry from a good one, but with him, I won't have to worry how to best phrase it. Word choice and turn of phrase notwithstanding, ultimately, this will all just sound like an update on the situation for him. When he finally answers, however, a certain tightness in his voice makes me pause. Hoarser, rougher than I remember, and it doesn't take a genius to figure out he hasn't gotten any sleep yet.
Becca? Didn't I tell you not to call around this hour unless it's urgent?
I remember, sorry. Don't worry, this'll be quick. It isn't urgent, but I thought you should... You deserve to know about this as soon as possible.
Can it wait? At least until lunch?
You've forgotten Isabella's in the hospital?
It can, but I'm about to...
Rebecca, I'm in the middle of something right now. I can't really talk over the phone. I'll just call you back.
Shuffling of papers follows his dismissive note. He hasn't dropped the call yet, but his impatience and intentness are clear. There's no need to guess, I can almost see it. A small scowl over his features, the way he reaches up with a hand to pinch the bridge of his nose when he can't figure something out. His quick, sharp movements while he checks and reads through everything with an enormous focus. Generally, I'd ignore it. I called him for an entirely different reason. Even so, this sudden nonchalance irks. Maybe it has to do with his own exhaustion. Without a doubt, he's been at this since his call last night. That part I understand. Still, would it hurt him to pause and ask for a minute? Do I always have to spell it out for him? Let's try that one. Nope. We're going for a happy thing with them. It just didn't feel like he'd want us to ask about the investigation. However, knowing Ashton, any attempts to push will only be met with an almost equal amount of bloody-minded aversion. Did not click on that. Honestly, there are a lot of things he needs to hear at the moment. But bringing all these concerns out in the open will probably make me sound more of a pure arsehole than a concerned friend. We're in the same boat after all. This is as difficult for him as it is for me. Never mind the specifics, the hows or the whys. We're both tired. Though unlike me, it's likely he hasn't gotten the chance to breathe easy since this whole thing began. Furthermore, Zachary isn't with him to listen like he always does. So if I could ease some of that burden off him by holding off on my sharp retorts and opinions, then for the time being, I'd gladly do so.
How is it going, by the way? Any news?
The rustling from his side abruptly stops. All of a sudden, a hush sweeps over him, and immediately I recognize it. This is him mulling over how to best articulate his answers, and weave together those little truths he's not ready to brave. Because doing so reveals too much of those fears, his weaknesses, and what he believes he failed to do. Unspoken as those may be, they echo louder in his silence. They all seep through the tiny cracks beginning to show in that wall he keeps. Doesn't really last long enough to hold, and when he regains his bearings, the shuffling returns with it, less urgent, milder than his actions earlier. A soft exhale and his expiration comes at his heels.
Not good.
Not good, as in...
As in, we aren't getting anywhere, Rebecca.
What about the surveillance cameras? You said you were going to check those last night, can't you use them? It must have caught something.
Yeah, we got the footage we needed. Oh, shit.
Don't talk like that. They spent a good chunk of the taxpayers' money on those, didn't they? I'd be cheesed off if you can't even find any good use for it.
That's precisely what's frustrating about this. Those are top-of-the-line security cams. They're not supposed to just stop working, but that night they were all useless. The recording chose to fuck up the exact moment we needed them. How dumb is that?
His voice fades, gradually swallowed by the constant din of traffic around him. along with the words and every implication they carry. If he has found other ways around this predicament, he leaves all of it unsaid or he has already been lost in the hubbub around him. Ashton's disappointment is the only thing I hear when he finds his tongue.
The guys at Tech have been trying to clean the footage since it was turned over. No promises from them, though.
Another round of shuffling follows, papers being folded and stacked neatly together, and the sharp tapping of shoes against concrete. Soon a car door closes behind him with a heavy thunk, effectively shutting off the noise outside. However, he looks or feels at present. Whatever's bound to happen next, he won't allow the world to see this one weakness. Except the lull that ensues deafens more than soothes. Pausing. Sorry about that. Had to answer the phone. Now back to this phone call. Except the lull that ensues deafens more than soothes. He's quiet for a long moment, with only his breathing breaking through the dense air every now and then. Although the line hasn't been cut off yet, I dare not speak. I've seen him like this before, and right now, even with the distance between us, forming a clear picture of him in my mind is easy. His head leaning against the steering wheel, hands gripping it like a lifeline, and his eyes shut tight in an effort to compose himself. He's angry. Not at what's happening around him.
Frankly, we can't move like this. We can't even find any witnesses. Those recordings are the only thing we've got. And if Tech can't fix those, if we can't even get anything out of it, without those, you've got no other leads. And this case is going to get dropped faster than a badly written police report.
But it himself.
If that happens, frankly, I've got no other choice but to let go of this. There's only so much I can do for her with all the red tape. Damn it.
No consolations, no words of encouragement. I don't offer him any, whether he's waiting for those or not. Those aren't what he wants to hear at the moment, despite himself. And sure enough, after another bout of silence and skirting around the topic, he finally asks. In a tense, small voice, too afraid of the answers lying ahead of one question, too wary of what people will see behind those walls already coming apart at the seams. But he permits me to see beyond it, if only for a short second.
How is she doing, by the way?
After all that, the least I can give him is a plain-spoken answer.
Comatose. Medically induced. She's on life support. They had no other choice. Surgery was stopped after a few hours because continuing would have been more fatal for her. They were losing their options, and her chances were slim from the moment they brought her in. That she managed to make it this far is already a miracle.
That's a little too optimistic. Is that how they phrased it?
No, not exactly like that.
Just give it to me straight.
The doctors said... they were... Last night was a miracle. But they said we shouldn't hope for another with how things are looking. They aren't going to do anything without our consent, of course, but it'd be best if we let her family know. Let them decide.
I see. I expected as much.
Have some faith in her. She'll get better. I wish I could tell those same words to him with the same certainty Zachary does, but we're people rarely swayed by blind optimism. Ashton especially. He's seen her last night. He has known the odds even before the doctor saw her. It's very probable he's already steeled himself for the worst of it even before the news came. This one might seem better. She's alive, she's still with us. When you look at it from his point of view, is there even any difference? With Zachary, it's easy to believe there is. It's not too difficult to hope. With Ashton, none of it is in his tone when he mutters a quick goodbye and cuts the call. In truth, I've hoped I'll somewhat be able to urge him to drop by and check on her, but as the last busy notes fade from my phone, chances of him ever doing that grow slim as well. He'll keep at this until he's exhausted all his efforts. It'll just be me and Zachary with her. The weight of that thought alone already feels staggering. So I gotta cut this part here, because we've been recording for over an hour, and I still gotta merge those videos from what I had to cut off before. I completely forgot about that. So, that will be all for now. Thank you for watching. Please leave a comment, and I'll catch you next time. Bye!